I don't know. Is this one presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy
Oh
Sports?
yeah,
We
Yahoo
are.
Daily
We
Fantasy.
are. It's easy to get mixed up these days. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. We'll drop the link in the chat for you. We're happy to have them as our sponsor. You're not going up against 150 entries. You're not paying a massive amount of a management fee. That's what we like to call it here. And you can make lineups at your own leisure without having to worry about knowing how to use Cruncher, knowing how to do all of that extra stuff. And as it comes to the contest, you got 12% management fee or lower, sometimes no management fee at all on these contests. Today, you got the 1K to first, 7K guaranteed MLB. Hop in there. And here's why. Because if you sign up using our link, use Awesemo, by the way, when you do AWESCMO, you get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points. That's right, YSRPs. You can use them as currency on the site to win more money. And then if you'd like, you can withdraw that because it's real money. That's right, up to $30 in YSRPs, Yahoo Sports Rewards points, when you sign up using our link. Check it out, Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of the Strategy Show, and we're glad to have them. All right, Jake. So we're starting off the show a new little ordeal here, and it's I believe they did it yesterday. We're gonna do a bit of a lineup study to start the show in the $12. Now, I'll throw it over to you. I would ask that we don't go over mine because I had a boatload of Blake Snell and Walker Bueller, and it just didn't end well at all. Um, yeah, I lost like 66% last night. Uh, I tell you what, with all the Phillies I had, I thought it would be better, but I had spread exposures out a lot because there were a lot of teams I liked. Like I liked a lot of stacks yesterday, and many of them did not come through whatsoever.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. Although I didn't have Philly, so I didn't really have a chance on the main
I
slate
did,
last
and I
night.
still didn't have a chance. If it makes you feel better,
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, you're not going to see my lineups anywhere near the top. This was the main slate yesterday, but we do see a pretty familiar name, 1800 or 1-800 Eddie, whatever you want to call him. He is our tech guy here. See, he finished pretty well. Some good profit here. He max entered. This was the $12 yesterday. So he pulled out a top 10 score. I think the payout structure was a little bit better. So you're seeing some of
yeah,
these guys.
20K to first.
What was it after that? Was it like 10, then 7, 5,
I,
something like
I
that?
think it was 20 to and then like 13. Let me.
Really?
I'm gonna. I could be wrong. Let me check. I got him. I don't want to, but I will.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go back there.
So
Yeah, it
top.
was. I know it wasn't bad at all. The one thing I wish they'd do though is like I get that they're making flatter payouts, but if you're gonna do that, just why wouldn't you make it double up on your entry fee for min cash? Like
Right.
I wish they did. I wish the min cash would have been like is 24, and then I don't know. It's not
No.
a big deal, but it's something I definitely would have liked to have seen. So the payout structure was 20K to first, yeah, 15 to second,
That's really
Te-
good.
yeah, 10 to third, 7-5 to fourth, 5 to fifth, 35 to sixth, 25 to seventh and eighth, um, 1500 to ninth and 10th, 1000 to 11 through 15. So not bad. Again, you didn't double your money. Not that it matters, but min cash was 18 on 12, but the top end of the payouts was a lot flatter and a lot better.
Yeah, no kidding. So you're seeing a bunch of people that max entered profit actually without getting a top 10, which is encouraging to see. And maybe that's a product of some of these bigger sites paying attention to what Yahoo's doing, making it a more player friendly game and more of a long term sustainable game for a lot more people. But if you look at 1-800 Eddie's exposures here, you see that he had nearly half of his lineups had a .35 from Reynaldo Lopez, and he was still able to get into the top 10. Or was he just outside of it or right at 10? Yeah, he was
I can
right
tell
at
you,
10.
he was 10th. He finished 10th with 192.05.
Yeah, so Eddie, it looks like he took a pretty big stand on the Phillies. You see Hoskins, Cesar Hernandez, McCutchen, and Harper and Real Muto all around or over 20%. So those were his
But
highest
what's funny
exposure.
is that that 10th place lineup only had one Philly in it.
Did it
It was
really?
actually a Washington stack. It was a 5-player Washington stack
5-2.
with with Pablo Lopez, Aaron Nola, and then McCutchen and Conforto. Yeah, that pretty wild.
Max
It was
Muncy got there. That probably
Muncie,
helped
yep,
him. Yeah.
Muncie too, yep,
Josh's favorite guy, my favorite guy.
yep.
Let's one more thing before we kind of get into the slate. I just want to look at the stack types Eddie uses. I haven't looked at him too much. Been looking at Tom and Alex quite a bit and some other pros. But if you just drag this stack types up here, you can see just what kind of stacks he was using. So at first glance, it looked like he was using all fives, and when you see six, that usually just means it includes the pitcher because you can't play six hitters on DraftKings from the same team. But you're seeing a bunch of different ones, mostly fives. He rolled out 5-5-2, 5-2-2. That includes the pitcher. 5-3, and then the sixes, of course, include the pitcher as well. So mainly fives here for Eddie, but if, it looks like a few four-mans, even a 4-2-2, a handful of those snuck into his crunch. So I wonder if he is also ranking lineups like what Alex has talked about, what Josh and Adam do as well, and what I've tried to start doing. So interesting to see all the different stack types that Eddie used. But I believe it was a 5-2, you said, that took
Yeah,
down
well,
the 10th place.
no, it was a 5, like a naked 5, because he had Conforto, McCutchen, and Muncie. It was a naked 5-man Washington stack,
Ah,
which I find pretty interesting
five.
because usually you see a lot of people running the 5-3s, the 5-2s, the 4-4. This was just 5 straight.
Yeah. I've been starting to use that stack as well. I usually just like going back to last season, I would do like 5-2 or 4-3, but never like 5 naked. But I'm seeing a lot of people from our site that I really respect using those kind of stacks. I know Tom has used that in the past a bunch, and Alex uses literally every different type of stack. But yeah, this is pretty interesting. EMAC also asked, shit my money, went heavy on Philadelphia. Did he have some strong showings? If we want to search for shit my money, that is Adam Share, of course. We can just go to here, click on him, and see he lost a little bit of money in this tournament because his top finishing position was,
I think it was like 300 or something,
No, yeah,
or
131.
131.
Yeah. So you see Adam's lineups here. He used a bunch of the 5-man nakeds. I can just see from first glance. Looking at his exposures quick. Click this arrow. Now you have Eddie and Shit My Money's exposures. Wow. He had 81% Real Muto, 70% McCutchen, almost 55% Harper, 52%
Yeah,
Sierra.
I could have told you that.
My goodness. So he was all over the place.
He sent me his exposures after lock, and because I was like, man, I got 72. I ended up somehow on 72% snell because after I filtered the lineups, I didn't know. I thought I had 50, around 50. I didn't, and it sneaks up on you. And he's like, yeah, I found out afterwards I had literally like 90% collective Phillies. Yeah, he had a ton. He had a ton of Philly bats, man.
So so he had
His
what?
best lineup, by the way, didn't have a single Philly in it.
You rarely see a lot of guys go this heavy on hitters, especially hitters from the same team.
I
Like
don't know if it was
80% of a hitter.
intentional.
No, I bet it wasn't, but listening to Adam when he talks in the office hours and stuff and just watching him on the stream, like he's just comfortable with what he gets. He's comfortable with this process of ranking
Exactly,
lineups.
yeah.
So if
Exactly.
if he did his crunches correctly and now he got a ton of Phillies, like that just means he was meant to get a ton of Phillies based on what he's trying to do. So he was right last night and still didn't profit, so things just didn't work out. But if you do this more often than not, you're going to see some monster nights as he's had a few recently. So high risk, very high reward when this does actually pan out. A lot of
Some
Robbie Ray
people,
frames, man.
and I know a few people that have always gone just with super heavy exposure to a select couple teams or in basketball a few players. Like when you do that, you definitely need to have a bankroll though that can support it, because you're going to have some really really good nights and then some really really bad nights. um, it's the all or nothing approach, which when it works it's phenomenal and you're finishing with like 30 lineups in the top 50, and when it's bad, you're not really finishing with anything near the top 500.
Yeah, it looks like his best lineup, John Means. That's
And
another
I'm
one
not
to
referring
cash
to
for.
Adam, by the way. I'm saying in general when you're doing that on every
Mhm.
single slate.
Oh, for sure. And I don't think he's like that. I mean, I look at Adam's lineups almost every day just to see his exposures, just to see kind of who he was on, and same thing with a bunch of other guys. But uh, it looks like Snell actually hurt him, like he hurt you in his top lineup,
Yeah,
14.7. It's
yeah,
not going to kill you, but when you're trying to get a top 10 or 20 score in a tournament like this, you needed 25 plus points from Snell in order
yeah. No
to
question,
make
no
this work.
question, none
Yeah.
at all. It was a rough first inning from him. That first inning messed a lot up.
Yeah.
He gave up 2 runs, 4 hits in the first innings. It was bad, and then he couldn't really pick it up after that. So, you know, you get what you get. And then, I mean, Bueller was just god awful. I mean, that
Yeah.
that was whew, that was horrible, man. He was so it doesn't even matter at this point, but like the first inning for Bueller, and then he gave up another 2 run shot. I think he ended up giving 5 or 6 runs up. Um, and then, pitching. Nola was somebody that I had. I had a lot of Philly bets, but way less Aaron Nola. And when that's the case, you know, you're done.
One more quick thing that I just noticed that I usually don't look at, but I should probably start looking at. I noticed Adam used, as far as like a salary constraint, all of his lineups, all of his 150 used at least $49,300, whereas Eddie's bottom lineup, and he had a handful of these, 47,500 was his lowest salary he used.
That's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so that's also something I could look at going forward, just to see. I should look at my lineups too and see
Yeah,
after the show. But
it could also just have been though that Washington wasn't going to pop up in many stacks for him
sure,
anyway. I mean, I don't know, but I'm just thinking like they definitely weren't. They weren't a team that you were. I can't imagine that most were going to get a ton of. Um, yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
I don't set my max salary or
neither
my minimum salary.
neither do I. But I don't know. It's something I'm gonna look into, looking at what some of these guys do. So those are just a couple of features in the endless amount of possibilities you guys can use with FC Pro. So it's a tool that we love. So we want to keep showing it to you and show you guys how we use it every day, because I literally use this tool every single day, as you guys should be as well.
All right, good stuff, Jake. Let's jump into it then. We've got so I guess we'll do both slates here. We've got the early slate, and not a lot of games on that. We have 7 on the main slate, and then we got the we're not going to get into it, but you got the fantasy base or basketball millionaire. You
Oh yeah,
got yourself a bunch of tickets into that today, so I'm pulling for you.
yeah.
I hope you
Thanks.
take that millie down.
Yeah, I'll take a split with, like, I think 10 people. I'd be cool splitting like a nice 100K or so. I think I'd be okay with that right now. We can just cancel the contest.
Yeah, no question. All right, let's get into it. So we got the early slate here on DraftKings FanDuel Yahoo. Looking over their contest here, I want to make sure I'm right here before we go forward. So Yahoo has
They also have a rake free tournament. I don't know if you mentioned, they have another one. It's filling up really, really quickly. So there's only 300 entries left.
Yeah,
1.2K out of 1.5K.
yeah, good call, Jay. 1,200 out of 1,500 entries. It's only a $3 entry fee too. Uh, $3 entry fee, and there's 4.5K guaranteed. No management fee whatsoever. And let's see here. Yeah, it is filling up really quick. Actually, it's filling up. I'm watching it just go up as we speak here. I wanted to give you the payouts on it.
It's 500 to first. I believe it was 250 to second, 150 to third.
All
Fourth and
right.
fifth get $100 each. So pretty
Yeah, you're
flat
right.
across the board.
500, 250, 151. Um, yeah, not bad at all, especially for no management fee. And as far as entries go, max 10 entries, but that's out of 1,500 people. So it's really not that bad if you're getting it in there. And it's only $3 to enter. So there you have it. And that is for the night slate. All right. Let's do it, Jake. We'll do the 3-game early slate first. Philadelphia, St. Louis, Jared Eichhoff, Dakota Hudson. We have a two high projected teams here. I don't think it should come as any surprise. It's been really warm in the Philly area, and balls have been flying out of there. I mean, yesterday it was Kingery, then Franco goes back to back, then Nola walks, then McCutchen homers. I mean, there were an incredible amount of home runs in that game yesterday, most of them off of Michael Wacha. But you're getting 80+ degree temperatures here again today at Citizens Bank Park. And you're looking at two teams that both have implied totals north of 5. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, I think I'm more likely to use Eichhoff on this 3-game slate. So I don't want to use any pitchers here. I would like to just use pitchers in Miami if I could, but that's what everyone's going to do. So I think Eichhoff may be able to get me a little bit of a different lineup construction off of the people that use Sandy Alcantara. I don't really want to use Hudson much at all here. Huge total against him as well, and I don't know if there's a bunch of strikeout upside against one of the more patient teams in Philadelphia, and a team that just put up 14 or 15 runs last night. So I just think strikeouts could be an issue here for Hudson at 7,300. Just perfect hitting weather, a little bit of wind blowing out. Looks like pretty humid as well in Philadelphia. So yeah, Philly, I think, has an argument as the number one stack. Hard to put them over Arizona and Colorado, but I think as ownership updates, I think they should be up near the top, if not the number one stack for exposure for me.
Yeah, I agree. And not something that I lean too heavily on, but you did see some reverse movement here with the Cardinals. Their total went from 4.9 to 5.3. Phillies opened at 5.3. They're still at 5.3. So both offenses obviously projected to put points on the board, but this game is dead even on the money line now, whereas Philly opened as -120 favorites. So, I mean, look, again, take it for what it's worth. Not something that you're gonna hold on to, but yeah, it's two pitcher. Eichhoff has good stuff. Like, Eichhoff has legitimately good stuff. It's just sometimes he can't use it, and he can't get stuff over the plate. His curveball won't curve. I mean, this happened against Milwaukee. He has good stuff, but it's really hard sometimes for him to piece together good start after good start and good inning after good inning. I like the guy, though, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a solid game here, but I'm also not opposed to St. Louis bats. And I don't know about you, Jake, but I think ownership definitely plays into consideration a bit here, because my guess is Philly's going to be real popular against Dakota Hudson. But I don't know how chalky St. Louis is going to be. We do have ownership.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Looks like Goldschmidt and Fowler are up there. So just based on what I'm seeing out of ownership, like the value bats in Coors are being prioritized, and then the expensive bats in Coors plus the value bats in this Philly game are also being the next priority. And then the San Francisco bats are basically going just unowned. Same thing with Miami. So people want pitchers from the Miami game, understandably low totals on both sides, and pitchers you can afford. The one thing, and this seems to happen on all these short cooler slates, Kyle Freeland is pitching, and he's also chalky. So he's actually the second highest owned pitcher behind Tyler Beede, both in the 40% range on DraftKings on the early slate.
And it's kind of interesting because Philly bats right now do not look that chalky outside of like Bryce
Mm-hmm.
Harper. Um, you have to scroll a little bit to
Yeah,
get to the next one.
I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty appealing actually. It's just like you said, with when you have cores on a slate like this, it's going to make things tough.
Mhm.
Who are your top bats from this game?
Yeah, I think Harper just point per dollar, even though it's not something you're chasing in MLB DFS, but I do love Harper here for 4,500. And then McCutcheon leading off, another really solid value. I like Nick Williams as well in the seventh spot if he's in the lineup. Looks like he's in the projected one that I'm looking at, seventh or eighth. 3K for him, a guy with power, and just to fill out the stack, he's a guy that I think I'll get to a lot too. On the Cardinals side, hard not to like Carpenter, and then I always like to play DeJong when he's priced up, just because he's got so much power, and people don't treat him like a guy that's great for DFS, but he's a guy who, like I said, just has a bunch of power. He's not going to get there all that often, but batting third against Eichhoff, righty, I don't think people are going to get to him very often.
Yeah, and by the way, keep in mind, Harper left yesterday's game early. No injury was announced, and he did return to the dugout. But worth keeping an eye on. He fouled a ball off of his foot, and it's a day-night game, or a night-day game. By the way, one that didn't start until after 8:30 from a rain delay. So it's a quick turnaround here. I'm hoping he doesn't, but I wouldn't be super surprised if Bryce got the day off after fouling that ball off his foot and being pulled from the game early.
Yeah,
All right.
that's a good point. Especially day night or
Night.
night.
I know I said the
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah. Day games after a night game are always tough as far as trying to predict the lineups. So we might see something funky out of one or both of these teams. So just be aware of that. Obviously, a lot can change depending on the lineups.
Yeah, Kepler's been willing to run Real Muto out there um, on these night day games. But one thing that's interesting is he pinch hit for Harper, for McCutcheon, for Segura, for Harper, and for Hoskins. Obviously just from your top four through the order, not for Real Muto. So I know Nap pinch hit, but I think Real Muto finished that game out. So it wouldn't be surprising to see no Real Muto in the lineup. And both of these teams run out something that doesn't necessarily look like what it usually does. So pay attention to that. San Francisco and Miami, Sandy Alcantara and Tyler Beede. Pablo Lopez was one of my highest owned pitchers yesterday. And while it wasn't a particularly good night at all, it was still, or for me, Pablo Lopez was fine. It still shows you like you can get decent value on Miami pitching in the right spot when they're at home. But the difference is Alcantara, man, he's not coming in at a discount here at all, Jake. He's 87 on DraftKings. That's remarkable given that I know he had one big game, but for the most part, Sandy Alcantara has been pretty average at best. And now you got a 3-game slate here where you're going to have to give away the farm just to get him in the lineups.
Yeah. So 8,700 for Alcantara, going up against an implied total that's lower than 4 in a good pitcher's park in Miami. Looks like the roof is going to be open, so maybe a little bit of a bump to the hitters there. But the Giants' third lowest WRC plus versus righties so far this season. They may have a watered down lineup. These two teams played last night as well, I believe. And it's already not looking like a great lineup here for the Giants. So I get it. I just don't think I'm going to get to Alcantara as far as where the field has him at. So right now he is also in that 40% range. There's a clear top 4 pitchers that people are going to. Beede, Freeland, Alcantara, and Eichhoff. I didn't even realize Eichhoff was up there, but he's also up there. Anyways, I think he's going to emerge as maybe the chalkiest pitcher on the slate. if not Beatty on the other side. But I don't really have a problem with it. I just think on a slate with 3 games in a variance-based sport, I'm going to try to get different when I do play Alcantara.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not wrong. How could you be wrong? There's only 6 pitchers, and 2 of them are in cores, and one of those cores pitchers is going to have ownership. It's not a great day for core and or for pitching, and as you know, on sites like DraftKings, you have that dynamic pricing where, you're going to price up some of these pitchers that are very pedestrian at best. And like Alcantara is a fine pitcher, but on a 10-game slate, he's like a 7K pitcher, not, almost 9K. So yeah, I don't know. On FanDuel, Alcantara is 64. I want to get your take on this though, Jake, because Eichhoff 74, Alcantara is 64, Dakota Hudson 68, Taylor Clark 61, Kyle Freeland 56, and Beatty down there at 56. So super flat and low pricing on pitching on FanDuel, real low. They haven't changed a damn thing, Jake.
Yeah, wow. I'm just looking at that right now. I don't know if I'm going to play on FanDuel, but like
it's crazy, right?
The way this sets up, the highest price pitcher is 7,400. So
I know.
Like, you don't even really need value bats. You can just play like half your lineups with Beatty, half your lineups with Alcantara, and maybe mix in one other pitcher if you're doing 150, and just take all the bats in the other game. Like just stack up every other bat. So what that's going to do is just make the Marlins and the Giants basically unowned because neither team has a player over 3K. But you're just not really going to need more than one guy like that in your lineups if you stack up these pitchers. So
right.
That's crazy. You just basically play all the expensive bats, and whatever pitcher you get, and you just filter in your 150.
Yeah, exactly. At that rate, I would just let it do the work for you.
Yeah.
There's no huge disparity, I don't think, between any of these guys. On the other side of this one, you've got Tyler Beatty. We did talk about Alcantara. I guess with Beatty, you kind of have to go there in some spots. He's being recalled from AAA. I want to believe he's stretched out. I don't know if you've looked into that, but
yeah, I'm looking that up right now.
I'm assuming he is. And at this point, like, you're just hoping that he can get through 5 or so innings. Marlins are bad against everyone, but they're much worse against right-handed pitching, given that their lineup is so righty heavy every single night. So I think whether you like Beatty or not, you're really just based on the slate, based on the matchup, playing him. He threw 104 pitches his last time out, so not too worried about that. And he's been pretty good. Actually, he's been fantastic.
Yeah, he has been. I didn't realize how solid he's been. But yeah, I think he's probably going to be my highest exposed guy. He seems as safe as you can be for a little bit of an unknown guy, a righty going into Miami. Again, good pitcher's park, a lineup that does lack power despite what they've shown over this last week or so. Just taking all my money. But right. I'm still going to continue to attack against them. I think over the long run against righties, they're going to be probably the worst team in the MLB. You look at these individual hitters, Castro, Neil Walker, Brian Anderson, Cooper. I don't think any of these guys are going to hit righties particularly well. Same thing with Rojas and Brian Holiday. So I'll be on B quite a bit. I would imagine he's my highest exposed pitcher here.
It feels like it. It does. Hopefully he can translate what he's taken in, or what he was doing at AAA and parlay that into some success here at the major league level, because the strikeouts were really solid. He was preventing runs. I mean, he looked good to me. At AAA this year, he's got a 2.34 ERA, but striking out almost 13 batters per 9 with a 35% K rate, Jake. That's not bad.
Seems pretty good.
Seems okay. Yeah, passable. Any thoughts on hitting in this one?
No, I don't really want to stack up the Marlins. I think Granderson's interesting leading off. He's going to project out well, as he always does against a righty when he's leading off, and he's 3,600. Same thing with Joe Panic. on the other side. I think I'd be more interested in playing like Belt, Posey, Longoria, Yastrzemski, or something like that. I think I'd be more interested in a giant stack here, but mostly going to be using these two teams as fillers in like 2-man stacks or something like that.
All right, let's talk Colorado, Arizona. Last one here on the early slate. We've got our boy Taylor Clark on the bump for the Diamondbacks, Kyle Freeland for Colorado. Again, no surprise, you're seeing high totals here. Look, right now, the total on this one is 12 over under, Jake, with 6.4 implied total for Colorado, 5.7 for Arizona. Temperatures at Coors approaching 70 degrees, so not insane, but it's still Coors, and that's still pretty solid hitting weather. So, yeah, I mean, here you have it. It's obviously going to be the game that most people are targeting, and for pretty obvious reason. Let's start with the pitching here with Clark and Freeland.
Yeah, I mean, Freeland is the guy I'd be more likely to get to, but chalk pitcher on a short slate in Coors. People have kind of caught on that Freeland is a fine option in Coors, and he's going to be a guy that people get to with Colorado. So I think if I'm playing Freeland, I'd be wanting to pay up for St. Louis or Philadelphia rather than Coors, like a full Coors stack, because that's what everyone's going to do when they hit optimize or are hand building their lineups. He's just going to go well as a correlation play. So I think just be smart with what you're doing with Freeland. Give yourself a chance to win on a short slate. He makes for an okay option, but Clark on the other side, not a guy that I'm going to get to here. He's more expensive than Freeland. Pitching in Coors, I think Clark's been, he's had some success in some better pitchers parks like Tampa and San Francisco in his last couple starts, but he still hasn't been missing bats. And if you're not missing bats in Coors, I think it's going to be a pretty rough day for him more often than not. So like Dahl and Daniel Murphy, I think, are two of the best values on the entire slate. Same thing with Tapia, and then they make it easier to fit in Story and Arenado. So
yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, if there's one thing though that we would both agree on is they are going to be ultra chalk on this slate. So in spots you're looking to get away and you wanted to go to because I think you would at this point because of that Coors game, it sounds crazy on a 3-game slate to think that the Phillies give you the best leverage. When you're talking about 6 teams, 2 of them being Miami and San Francisco, it looks like right now, at least, the Phillies aren't garnering nearly as much ownership as a lot of these other teams. I get that they're not super cheap either, but that might be the team if you're trying to get different. Aside from that, though, Freeland struggled this year, Jake. It's been a tough go for him, and he's somebody that showed some serious promise at times, at least outside of Coors. But one thing that's kind of interesting is this Diamondbacks team their active roster has been very good against left-handed pitching. 358 WOBA this season. That ranks towards the top of the league. Actually, on the season, I think it ranks 4th. Yeah, 4th. Their isolated slugging is also up there. It's 3rd best in baseball, 223. They've seen 705 plate appearances, so it's not like they're all the way down at the bottom. And then WRC Plus, they rank 5th, and their 21.3% K rate is also down towards the bottom. It's a bottom 10 mark. So it is a tough matchup for Freeland. He's contesting with not only the elements, the altitude, Coors Field, but also I don't know what the lineup will look like for the Diamondbacks. I think it could be a real tough spot. How much interest do you have in these Diamondbacks hitters?
A ton, because you're going to have to spend up for them. They're not going to come up in the optimizers quite as much. So I think if we had a top stack tool for this slate, which I don't think we will, but if we did, I think Arizona would come in as really undervalued, whereas Coors, the Colorado side might come in, the correct value or maybe a little bit overvalued based on their ownership and their chances to be the top stack here. So I just think when you have to pay 5,600 for Marte and 53 for Adam Jones, Escobar almost 6K. Like you're paying more for Eduardo Escobar than Arenado and Story. So that's going to be tough for people to do. I'm going to try to force in a bunch of Arizona, and you're getting a ton of leverage off of Freeland, who's a guy I respect, but like you mentioned, Laffy, he's had a bunch of issues this season. So I don't know that I want to get to 40% Kyle Freeland if the field's getting there.
Yeah, it's been a rough go for him, no question, man. I like Arizona here, but you also pointed out you will have to pay. This isn't a spot where you're going to get him cheap. Ketel Marte, Jared Dyson, those guys are super pricey. But Marte smokes lefties.
Yep.
And Adam Jones this season, like there's a rebirth. He's been reborn, and he's got 11 home runs, 24 extra base hits. This guy, it's pretty incredible. And then guys like Escobar, of course, you got Ahmed batting from the right side of the plate. There are definitely ways to make it work, but we'll have to see what the lineup looks like here. So we'll move on to the day slate. Before we do, let me ask you, what do you see if let's say you are building a single entry lineup in like the $100, right? Sure. What would you start with at pitching and hitting?
I think I'd start with my stacks. I think that's what you would like. I'd start with a main stack first and then try to fill in after that. I think I'd really be trying to get in Arizona, just because in a single entry, even more, the chalk is going to be usually even chalkier, because people know what the best plays are, the best value plays. And Arizona is not going to be the best value for a lot of people. So like I'd be trying to get in 2 or 3 of these expensive options on Arizona, the Martes, Escobars, Adam Jones. I'd probably throw in Christian Walker just because he's a good hitter, hits lefties well, and just a nice value for part of your main stack. And then I'd for sure get one of Beatty or Alcantara, probably Tyler Beatty, and then just kind of fill in with whatever works after that, whether you have to get in a Colton Wong who's leading off, Jose Martinez there for the Cardinals, and then I'm sure there's probably going to be some value opening up in Philadelphia somewhere, depending on that lineup we get.
All right. Yeah, Wong leading off. It's Wong, DeYoung, Goldschmidt, Ozuna, Martinez, Matt Wieters. My guess is Wieters probably gets some decent ownership here at 30, what is he, 36, 35? No, he's down at 3,300.
Yeah.
Probably going to be relatively popular just given how bad that position normally is. Maybe Kelly too, but that's the top of the lineup. It's not bad. And Jed Jerko, Bader, and Hudson. We also got Miami's lineup, 7 righties against Tyler Beatty. So
yeah, couldn't have asked for a better lineup. But ownership will reflect that, I would imagine. He's going to be
no question. No doubt about it. I was actually looking at Beatty's career numbers against righties. My guess is I don't want to look. Yeah, I mean, it's still really bad. Not a ton of plate appearances, only 40 batters faced, not a lot of strikeouts, but you and I, we're going to hold our breath and assume that those AAA stats can translate into something good against a AAA Marlins team.
Exactly. He's basically going up against the same competition.
That's right. All right. On to the main slate. By the way, if you use the promo code MLB Strategy, all one word, you can get 50% off your first month at awesomemode.com. Like all of the stuff we have, the ownership projections we referenced, the stack tool, all of our player projections, all of our golf content, which if we didn't have that, I wouldn't be playing golf today because I know nothing about it. PGA golf, of course. I don't play real golf. I wish I did. But anyway, yeah, the promo code's MLB Strategy. It's one word. And you have access to everything for 50% off. You get access to all of our premium content, articles from myself and Adam and Jake and Josh, so much more. All of Jake's NHL content, although it's coming to an end. Also, your MLB. I would run out of time talking about all of this, but just know we also have the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, which is big to a lot of people. Fantasy Cruncher Pro, which you can get as well. We referenced and actually went over that at the top of the show. The lineup builder, for those of you that aren't playing 150 entries, we've got a lot for everyone, as a matter of fact. So come check us out. say hi, and use the promo code MLB Strategy when you do to get 50% off your first month of premium subscription. And remember to say what's up in our premium Slack chat where we're all hanging out throughout the day and, of course, throughout the night. All right, Jake.
Well, you missed one thing. You missed one thing. We're doing the giveaway for
I
the
had
NBA
it primed
Finals.
up man. I'm
Oh,
trying to
okay.
break it up. But
All
you
right,
know
there we
what?
go.
It's all right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're the professional.
No. I'm saying I try and split them up
Oh, okay.
throughout the show, but we're there already, baby. So
All
hit
right.
it.
So we're doing a giveaway for a free year of All Access plus a one-on-one coaching session with Osmo, Alex Baker himself. So all you have to do is click on that.
$7,000 value is that coaching session.
What's that?
The coaching session itself is a $7,000 value.
Exactly. So we get that all the time. We get access to Osmo in the Slack chat, in our internal Slack. So that's pretty nice. But all you have to do is just reply with a guess for the over-under, the amount of points scored in tonight's Game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Warriors and the Raptors. There's a couple rules you have to have done before you reply. You have to follow a couple Twitter accounts. It's very easy. You follow our normal Twitter account, Osmo_com, and then Osmo NBA, and then be wise with your guess because everyone can guess near the over/under. I think it's at around 213. So just be wise. Use some game theory. Use some DFS strategies with your guess if you're trying to win this coaching session plus free year of All Access.
Yeah, $699.99 value on that premium package.
Pretty good.
We can't even put a value on the coaching session with Alex, so it's up there. I can tell you that much. He wins a lot, and he can help people win. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, definitely get in on that. It's the pinned tweet on our Osmo_com handle. The directions are right there. Anyone's capable of figuring this one out. So it's the pinned tweet under our Osmo_com handle on Twitter. Check it out and give us a follow as well. All right, let's hit it, Jake. We've got 7 games here, and I like this slate. It's interesting at the top with pitching because you've got Sale against the Yankees. You've got Carlos Carrasco in a pretty solid matchup, but it goes further than that. You get towards the top even further. Hold on, I'm sorry. I pulled up the wrong page here. Sale, Carrasco, and then Mike Minor's been phenomenal, but the total against him is but Hyunjin Ryu and Morton, of course. We can get to all of these guys. Hyunjin Ryu has been downright spectacular this season, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what exposures look like on a slate with so much good pitching at the top. Some of them might not have great matchups, but all of these guys are very good.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty interesting pitching slate. So I'm excited to kind of dig in, get your thoughts, and I think we're going to agree on a lot of these guys. Got some weather issues possibly in New York and then maybe Pittsburgh, but hopefully a little bit more clear than yesterday by the time we get to lock.
All right, sounds good. Let's dive into it then. Now that all of our reads in the early slate are out of the way. Boston, New York Yankees. We can talk about weather when we get here. This one does. If I had to guess, and I'm no meteorologist, if you're talking about like postponement chances, this one's got to be up there. You're getting heavy rain called for throughout the day and night, or throughout the beginning of the night, throughout the entire night. We're going to talk about it anyway because it's not like we can predict this, but it certainly looks like we have some real risk here. Chris Sale on the bump for Boston, J.A. Happ for the Yankees. I want to start with Happ, though. No, you know what? We'll start with Sale because we're going to talk Boston bats. What are your thoughts here on Chris Sale against the Yankees? Implied run total, unsurprisingly, sitting below 4. Yes, it is a good Yankees team, but Chris Sale is also a very good pitcher. And actually, it opened at 3.8. Their total's up to 4.1 now. The Yankees have seen an increase in run total, 0.3 runs throughout the day or since last night.
Yeah, you're just getting an underpriced Chris Sale, I think. So if this game looks like it's going to go, I'm certain I'm going to have a bunch of him here. and I think he's going to be your lower owned pivot. Not necessarily in quite the same price range as Carrasco, but he's kind of the guy that's emerging as the really chalky spend up guy. So yeah, tougher spot for Sale going into Yankee Stadium against a bunch of guys with power. You're worried about Hicks and Sanchez and Voit and Torres, but Sale has overcome tougher matchups. Like, we're in agreement, right, that he's back. Like, he's normal Chris Sale. He's not the guy that was struggling.
Oh yeah, he's back.
Yeah. So if he's back and he's 10-8, I mean, if this game looks like it's going to play, you're going to get an undervalued Chris Sale, underpriced Chris Sale. So I've got no problem rolling him out here, assuming the weather gets a little bit better.
Yeah. The interesting thing is with this matchup, I don't know where the field is going to land, given that you have weather and then you have Yankee Stadium, and a team that has, a relatively low K rate, but Chris Sale is, below 11K. And, to kind of put that in context, we were looking at, who was it the other day that was 11-8? It wasn't even, no, it wasn't Snell. It was, I can't remember who it was, but I remember thinking to myself, man, this guy's 11,800 and Chris Sale's been below 11K in most of his starts, even since he's been good. So
Strasburg, wasn't it?
Who?
Was it Strasburg?
It was. Good call. Yep. Steven Strasburg at 11-8. Yep. But nevertheless, on DraftKings, Chris Sale is projected to be the second highest owned pitcher on DraftKings. And on FanDuel, Chris Sale is actually down there at 15%. Not your highest owned, actually. I think your third or fourth highest owned pitcher. And then on Yahoo, Chris Sale is much lower, coming in at 15 or 16%. So DraftKings right now is seeming where he's getting the most attention. And I guess it makes sense because he's $61 on Yahoo. 10-8, given his skill set, given his ceiling, is actually pretty palatable.
Yeah, no kidding. He's just better than a 10-8 pitcher. And yeah, we're not seeing a lot of these studs. Alex mentioned it yesterday, I believe, on the deeper dive, about how these studs aren't getting priced up as much on DraftKings as in years past. So I'm just taking advantage of that. And if this game looks even close to okay, the ownership's going to come down on him, assuming it doesn't clear up by this afternoon, entirely clear up, I should say. You're going to get Sale at lower ownership than he should be in this spot. So I'm willing to take that risk, I think.
So am I. Barring the weather,
Right.
If it's really bad, I don't think it's necessary just because there's so much good pitching. But,
For sure.
if we look like we're going to be clear, I have no problem at all going to a guy like Sale here. What are your thoughts on J.A. Happ? He's coming off of, arguably his best start of the season. But, but aside from that, man, it's been a tough go for Happ this year. His whiff rate on almost all of his pitches and his swinging strike rate are really underwhelming. And now he's got to go up against this power-laden, righty-heavy Boston team. God, that seems tough.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a little bit of a discount on Happ, and he showed kind of his upside in his last game against KC, who isn't a cupcake matchup by any means, strikeout-wise. And he had a 23% swinging strike rate in that start. Six innings, had 10 strikeouts, allowed 3 earned runs, and that's kind of been his downfall. He's just allowing a lot of runs this season, which, you can't predict that all that much. They're a little bit random from start to start. On the season, 11% swinging strike rate. I don't know. I don't think I need to play him here. Like, he's not a guy I'd be itching to play anyways against Boston, no matter what he's priced at. So I just think it's a really low upside spot, plus the weather. Whereas, like, Sale, he's priced up, and he's got a ton of upside in basically any matchup. I don't know that you can say the same about Happ, even with what we saw in the last start.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think ultimately, though, I'm liking what we have in Boston bats here. You're gonna have to pay for a bunch of these Boston hitters but they're not that bad, Jake. Like they're not outrageously priced. The problem is that while none of them are 5,800, they're all around 5K.
Yeah, they we're getting spammed in YouTube chat. But they're super expensive. So I think if this game looks dicey, and it worked out last night, if this game looks dicey, you're going up against a good pitcher. People might just write off Boston just because they're expensive. Game might not go all that. But if it looks dicey, like I might just force in 4 or 5 out of my 150 full on Boston stacks against Happ, because if it's not super rainy or anything, it still is decent hitting weather. It's a good hitter's park. Yankee Stadium is, and you've just got a bunch of guys that crush both-handed pitching, but lefties they've got no problem against in the top 5. If it's Chavis, Betts, Bogarts, JD, Pierce, that's a pretty good way to start a 5-man if they're going to get decreased ownership because of the weather.
If you're doing that, but you know what? We'll actually return to that and talk about pitch, how you're going to work that in with pitching, because I think that's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. Any other thoughts on this game before we keep it going here?
No, I think it's just so hard to say exactly what we want to do 8 or 9 hours out or whatever we are. So
For sure.
yeah, we'll talk more when you guys are on the deeper dive, and then when Chris and I are on live before lock.
Yep, especially with weather concerns where we don't really know what it's going to look like. I mean, it looks like this Milwaukee and Pittsburgh game has some weather issues, but nothing serious. I wouldn't be too concerned there. You got Joe Musgrove and Chase Anderson on the bump for their respective teams. Musgrove, it's funny because I actually have Musgrove, and it scares me. I have Musgrove as the top value on this slate. That doesn't mean the top pitcher by any stretch, obviously, but just given his price point, I do have him as one of the top values here at only $6,000 on DraftKings. It does seem like a very, very cheap price point for a guy who has had some rough starts this year, but all in all isn't a terrible pitcher, and is at PNC Park. I think obviously the question would be, how many lefties are we going to get in the lineup for Milwaukee, and what other value pitching do we have? How do you break down this pitching matchup?
Yeah, I think Anderson's not a guy that I'm looking to play all too much in this spot. Just a tough strikeout matchup against this Pirates team. You also have the weather. I think the guy that is really interesting is Musgrove. I agree with you, and I see myself having quite a bit of him here. Scary matchup against Milwaukee, but they do strike out around average versus righties, over 23%. They're 17th in the MLB in that category. Ton of power. Musgrove struggles with lefty power, so there's a lot of potential blow-up spots here for Musgrove, but at 6K, I'm willing to take that risk. He's just not a 6K pitcher, despite a little bit of recent struggles here. So 6K for Musgrove, I agree with you, grades out as one of the best values on the slate. And anytime you're getting a 6K pitcher that's stretched out entirely, like, you just kind of have to play him. So if you're multi-entering, at least, I kind of subscribe to what Adam's been saying lately. If you're 6K and you're not completely terrible, you're gonna be in my pool.
Yep, and he's not completely terrible. He's not completely great either, but you're not going to get a great pitcher, down there at that price. That's always going to come with warts. 19% projected ownership on Musgrove right now on DraftKings. And by the way, we should preface this with, when we're talking about that, saying, oh, if there's a guy that's that cheap, he can be played. We're talking about two pitcher sites like Yahoo and DraftKings.
Of course.
On FanDuel, it's really unnecessary, unless of course it's just a phenomenal value and erroneous price. But outside of that, you're going to have a tough time, making sense of it. But Musgrove, 35 on Yahoo, 13% ownership. But it's really that 6K price point on DraftKings that is the most appealing. 19% projected ownership right now, which really isn't that bad. It's the same as Yusei Kikuchi. What are your thoughts on hitting? Any interest in bats in this one?
I think if I'm going to bats, it will be with like a Brewer stack. Like if we see this weather start to clear up and Musgrove becomes the chalk, while I'll still play a ton of him, I'll probably be heavy on the Brewers as well. They're expensive. Yelich almost 6K. But if Musgrove gets blown up in the start, it's very likely going to be with the lefty power, and they've got a lot of it with Yelich and Moustakas, Grandal, and Thames. So those are 4 clear targets, clear guys you can play against Musgrove. Pittsburgh, not so much. I just think Anderson's okay. I just hate when he's on slates because there's never really anything I want to do with him, stack against him, or play him really.
Yeah, I know. And Chase Anderson, not this year. Obviously, we still have a ways to go, but Chase Anderson has always been better away from Miller Park. It's just not a great park that, especially for pitchers to give up some power. I believe last year, let me make sure I'm right. Yeah, Chase Anderson last year gave up 30 home runs. 22 of them were at home.
Wow,
So,
that surprised me that he gave up that many home runs.
I know, dude. I know. 30 home runs, 22 of them at Miller Park. He was markedly better on the road. Like, 350 WOBA at home allowed, and 2.4 home runs per 9 on the road, 278 WOBA and 0.95 home runs per 9. So just, way better overall outside of Miller Park. And he gets a great park shift. So I'm with you here on hitters. Not super interested, but I will point out that if Musgrove's going to be chalky, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if his ownership increases throughout the day at this price point, I'm not opposed to looking at some of these Milwaukee bats. I don't really care about the park at this point. It's a Milwaukee team that against righties has a bunch of lefty power, and Musgrove against lefties, that has always kind of been his Achilles heel. And this season isn't a whole lot different. He's allowing not a lot of home runs, but a 333 WOBA. I do expect some base runners to get on here. Only 15% strikeouts to lefties as well. So it's not the craziest idea to think that Milwaukee bats at low ownership could put up numbers in bunches against Musgrove. All right. Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Charlie Morton, and man, you talk about a renewed pitcher, Martin Perez. It's been a lot of fun to watch him, and he continues to look great despite getting a decent amount of tough matchups. Now you've got him going up against Tampa Bay. He's not cheap anymore. Neither is Charlie Morton, coming in at 10K even on FanDuel or on DraftKings. Over on Yahoo, you're getting Morton at $46, the 5th highest priced pitcher. What do you think of this pitching matchup? It's a pretty interesting one at a good pitcher friendly park.
Tricky spot for Martin Perez. I don't see myself getting to a lot of him, even though I agree with you. I think renewed pitcher is a great way to put it. Just a completely different guy than what we've seen in years past. A guy that couldn't get a lot of swings and misses and now is getting a bunch of them and looking like a solid MLB starter. But that being said, a bunch of right-handed bats in this lineup. Pham, Garcia, Adames, and d'Arnaud aren't great, but still a bunch of righties. I actually like d'Arnaud as a really cheap value on DraftKings at $2,200. So I don't see myself getting to a lot of Martin Perez. I don't see myself getting to a ton of Rays outside of Avisail Garcia and d'Arnaud, like I mentioned. Morton on the other side for 10K. He's one that I haven't decided yet what I really want to do with him. Sorry. But Morton at 10K against Minnesota, he's striking out 37% of lefties again this year. Just phenomenal numbers to both sides of the plate, giving up very little hard contact to both sides. So I understand.
He's good, man. Morton's a good pitcher.
He's really awesome. I just don't know if I'm at a point yet where I want to take pitchers for 10K against Minnesota. Like, they've just been so good this entire year.
They have.
And Morton's getting 20% ownership. I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too. Look, the biggest reason for it, in my opinion, is just the Twins, their active roster. Really, it doesn't matter who it is. They don't strike out. They just don't. They have the 4th lowest K rate in the league this season. And, a lot of the guys that struck out at a higher clip last year aren't striking out nearly as much this season. it's been kind of rough. And then honestly, you look at a guy like Byron Buxton, who amazingly, the guy has 19 doubles this year, which I think he has 26 extra base hits in 163 at bats. He's been really good, but he's also somebody that strikes out a good amount, down from last year, but still a lot. He might not be in the lineup, so that would take probably more strikeouts out of it. That would be my only issue here is where are the strikeouts coming from, Jake?
Yeah, that's the thing. So Morton, he great stuff, but just a brutal K matchup and a really scary one against Minnesota, even in a good pitcher's park. So one of the lowest totals we've seen for the Twins all season. So a lot of respect to Morton, but I'm more likely to just write off both sides of that matchup than I am to go heavy on either side, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Wouldn't be surprised to see Morton go like 7 one-run innings,
Mm-hmm.
but the
Like four
strikeouts,
strikeouts. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. But I mean, before we get on to pitching here, or to hitting, just looking over the numbers, probably worth pointing out that this guy does have a 31% strikeout rate this year. Like his K rate's filthy. He has a 12.3% swinging strike rate, 33% called plus swinging strike rate. Like Morton's been legit, and he's getting 56% ground balls in the process. Are you kidding me? It's just really good numbers. He hasn't allowed a home run to right-handed hitting this year. It's crazy. So I don't know. I guess do with that as you please, but it's just a tough strikeout spot, and you are going to be paying for him. Are you going to any hitting in this game?
There's not a ton of bats on the Minnesota side. Like I think if I'm going to Minnesota, it would just be a stack and just hope that Morton doesn't have it, and you just bet on the talented hitters that are at low prices for the Twins. And then on the Tampa side, just Darno and Abisil Garcia versus a lefty. I think both have really solid prices on DK.
All right. Texas, Kansas City, two of the highest totals on this slate. Texas right now at 5.5, Jake, against Jake Junis. And then against Mike Minor, Kansas City still at 4.6. That's what you get at Globe Life Park once you start getting into the summer months. 86 degrees at first pitch. You know, it's going to be warm. The ball's going to be jumping. But Mike Minor has been stellar, to say the least, at home this season. Just doing a phenomenal job. Has only allowed one home run in 5 starts in Arlington. The guy's been super impressive. He's also very expensive. So, I mean, that's another thing. If you wanted to get away from the field, you'd be doing so by paying a lot for someone like Mike Minor. He's 10-3 on DraftKings. On Yahoo, he's 48. And let me pull up. I lost the FanDuel main slate. Do you have that pulled up by any chance?
For Minor, he is 9-2.
9-2. Okay. So Minor and Jake Junis, one team with a super high total, the other one with a relatively high total, going up against a guy that's been really good this season. I think a lot of people continuously think Minor's going to come back down to earth. It might happen. Will that be today is the question.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be today. So I think if KC is going to be popular, and looking at some of these guys, Merrifield's up there, Mondesi as well. Those guys both in double digits. Lopez close to double digits. So I think KC's getting quite a bit of ownership right now. And Minor's not a guy I love picking on. That being said, Minor's also 10-3 on DraftKings. So I don't know that I'm going to get to him there. What did you say his Yahoo price? 48, man. That's, I think, more doable on Yahoo, where you're going to get a ton of value hitters near min salary. But yeah, I think on DraftKings, I don't know that I'm going to get to a lot of Minor. I'll probably be underweight on KC bats outside of maybe Merrifield is a guy I really like whenever he's up against a lefty, batting up in the order, lead off or probably second. And then it's just a really good hitting environment. The other side, Junis, it's just a brutal matchup for him. Like lefty power is what he really struggles with. And yeah, he's cheap, so I guess he's going to be in my pool, but It's really tough to see him getting out of this matchup unscathed. 43% hard contact to lefties this season, just over an 18% K rate, 154 whip. Like, he's just allowing a ton of base runners to lefties. I don't know. I'd much rather go to Musgrove, even considering the ownership that you're going to have to pay compared to Jake Junis here. It's just a really, really tough spot with a ton of lefty power for Texas.
Yeah, no question, man. And I guess the thing with Minor, it's a tough decision because the Royals are bottom 3 in WOBA, ISO, and WRC plus against lefties. They've really struggled against them this year. And when you look at the configuration of the lineups they run out there, it's not a huge surprise. Their K rate, though, 24%, nothing really great for Minor, but really it comes down to the price point. If I was getting a ballpark discount on Minor, like we get at pitchers at Coors, and he was down at 9K, I would legitimately consider him, I think, on DraftKings, but it's a whole lot tougher to do here, especially given a bunch of the pitching options that we haven't gotten to yet. I don't think it's insane in tournaments to look at him at 92 on FanDuel. He is the 6th highest priced, or 5th highest priced pitcher, and he has just been. I mean, we can only keep saying, oh, he'll come back down to earth for so long until you can't say it anymore. And you're talking about a guy that is getting the numbers have been consistently solid all season long. So I guess we'll see. But I do think he's a little bit too expensive. Now, Jake, I love, and you just already talked about it, I love Ranger bats here. It's really tough to get away from the Rangers when they're facing a league average at best righty, and he's been worse than that this season. Junis is no stranger to coughing up home runs, and multi-home run games that's been a thing for Junis for a couple of years now. Is there a better overall stack than the Rangers on this slate?
I'm having a hard time finding one. I think maybe you could make the case for the Dodgers. Looking at their prices, you're getting some value there. But I'd rather pay up for Texas. I think they might even come in a little bit undervalued compared to their ownership with their top stack percentage. So I'm excited to see the top stack tool, as I always am. Every day it's a tool that really affects my process. So I'm hoping Texas isn't like crazy chalk, and I don't think they will be with some pitchers we'd like to pay up for, and some guys that are above 5K in Chu, Andrews, and Pence, and Gallo, actually, if Gallo can play. So I love Texas. I think the ownership will stay intact somewhat, and I always like that for the team with the highest implied total on the slate.
Man, these Ranger bats are not cheap.
No,
let me tell you. They are not cheap. I mean, if Gallo's out of the lineup, it waters down this stack. It waters down the lineup, but it's also going to give you, a discount somewhere. But it's like, Willie Calhoun, who had been excellent since they brought him up, he's been on the IL. Gallo might not play. You might have to get like a, and actually, because Delino DeShield's at AAA, right? I think he's down at AAA. So I'm not even sure what it would look like. Chu, I guess Pence, Mazar. All I know is they're expensive across the board. Specifically on DraftKings, Gallo, Pence, Chu, 3 outfielders, all above 5K. Andrews above 5K. Asdrubal Cabrera is actually reasonably priced. But then Danny Santana is 5K.
Yeah.
And so Forsythe is reasonable, but he's so bad against righties. 4 of the guys that you're going to want are above at or above 5K. No, 5 of them. Sorry, 5.
Yeah. And then looking at Yahoo, I was looking to see if we can get some value there, but if Gallo plays $27, Pence is 24, 21 for Chu, but then even like the secondary pieces, like Andrews is 18, Asdrubal and Odor both 14, so Ronald Guzman 14 as well. So
crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to fit him in, which I'm excited about.
Crazy. Just crazy. So, I mean, we're going to want some of them. Like, it's that simple. You're going to want to find ways to get Texas. But let me throw the opposite at you. You're saying, maybe because they're high priced, they might come in with low projected ownership. What if it's the opposite? And what if it's looking like Texas is going to be a popular team? I mean, we already have ownership, so we can gauge a little bit. Gallo's up there, Mazzara's really high, Odor is up there. Yeah, I mean, right now it looks like they will be one of the highest owned teams. As Drupal Cabrera is up there, is there merit to coming in real underweight on him?
I don't think I'm going to try to intentionally. I think just mixing up my combos. So, like, find what the chalk cheap stack is, or the chalk value that everyone's going to pair Texas with, and just maybe go to a team with, a few points lower in the implied total. Maybe you go to LA or Seattle. I don't know who's going to be, LA, the Angels, I meant. And just get different in that way, because it looks like a phenomenal spot against Junis here for the Rangers, so not one that I see myself avoiding by the time we get to lock.
I'm with you. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be some spots that we can get to outside of that, though. But it's funny, we talk Pittsburgh, Milwaukee. I said I like some leverage Brewer stacks, but it's not like you're in love with them, especially not at PNC.
For sure.
And Musgrove doesn't give up a lot of power. Minnesota, Martin Perez. Tampa Bay, Charlie Morton. Mike Minor for Texas. Chris Sales on the mound. What we might have weather there. Like, we've gotten through 4 games, and there aren't that many teams that we have a ton of interest in as far as hitters go, and as far as pivoting off that we have much faith in. Maybe that'll change here, Jake. White Sox, Cleveland, Carlos Carrasco on the road here against the Sox. Manny Banuelos is on the mound for the White Sox, and the Indians on the road have a pretty high total. It's up at 5 even right now, and they're unsurprisingly pretty heavy road favorites with Carrasco on the mound. Let's talk about Carlos Carrasco first, then we'll get into the hitters here. I think we may have found something in Indians bats, but on to Carlos Carrasco.
Yeah, Carrasco, I mean, there's not much to really talk about here. It's a great strikeout matchup. He's going to be really chalky. I'm going to play a bunch of him. He seems like a great value for these upper tier pitchers. The weather isn't really that concerning. A little bit of wind blowing in, 65 degrees or so in Chicago. So he's got a lot of things going for him. The White Sox do have power, and specifically power from the left-hand side with Moncada and Alonso. So those would be the 2 bats that I would be looking to get overweight on for the Sox. I like them as a 2 or 3-man stack, just pure leverage, and I just think Moncada's really awesome for 4,400. But yeah, he's probably the best value on the slate for guys above 8K or so, and there's nothing really holding me back. The White Sox just strike out so much versus righties, nearly 27% on the season.
Dude, I don't know how you get away from this.
Yeah, that's why I would have more interest in Morton if he was projected for 7% ownership, and you were getting a huge ownership discount paying up a little bit to him from Carrasco on a few lineups. But they're going to be even close. Carrasco in half the lineups seems crazy, but he just fits so nicely, and the strikeouts are probably going to be there.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you here, and I just don't. I don't see really any reason to get away from it. Could it go bad? Yeah, of course it could. Carlos Carrasco has definitely screwed us over more times than one, but he's also still a high upside pitcher that has, a high ceiling, elite strikeout stuff. I don't see myself getting away from it here. And even if he's popular, we just talked about it. I think there will be other ways to get away from the field. He's allowed, it's pretty remarkable. He's allowed the second most home runs of anyone on this slate. He's allowed 13. J.A. Happ has allowed the most at 14. But Carrasco has a 29.3% K rate, 26.9% against lefties. He's going to see a decent amount of them today. 31% against righties, and a 14.2% swinging strike rate. That is tied for best on the slate with Chris Sale. So, look, if we're looking for a ceiling, Carrasco has it and more.
Oh, for sure. And that's what all you're looking for 9,500. Like
Right.
he's got the highest ceiling on the slate.
No question. Well,
Outside
other
of
than
maybe
Chris Sale, yeah.
So, nothing bad to say. You're gonna be playing the chalk, but you've got a bunch of other roster positions to get a little bit different with them.
What's your thinking on Benuelos, Jake? Knowing that Indians have a 5-run total, now, obviously they've been better at home at Progressive Field for a while now, but Benuelos is one of those lefties that he's allowing well over a home run per 9, walks a ton of batters, which has clearly been a problem. Doesn't get a ton of Ks, but actually I think he's around the K per inning. The problem is he can't go deep into games because he works so deep, such deep counts, walks a lot of batters, can't get out of at bats. Are the Indians a team here that you're going to be heavy on?
I think I will be at least heavy on a few guys. Lindor leading off for 4,800 really sticks out to me. And then Jose Ramirez, I continue to play him, and he's only 3,900, so that's seems pretty good value, even if he's 85% of what he's been the last couple seasons. So he obviously has had huge struggles to start off the season. I don't know if he's injured or what, but I kind of continue to play him. I don't know that I'm in love with the Cleveland stack here that much. Like if they have a bunch of lefties in the lineup and Kipnis and Bowers and Leonis Martin. So I may be underweight on the stack as a whole, but I don't know. Like I don't have any real aspirations to play Benuelos at 5,600. He's a $5,600 pitcher, and he's somewhat stretched out, but like you mentioned, he can't really go deep into games. Like he's had trouble even getting through 4 his last few starts. So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough for me to want to play a bunch of Benuelos, but I guess I don't love the Indians' bats.
Well, you had just mentioned a minute ago finding that chalk value stack that we can get away from. Well, it didn't take us long to find it. This is it right here. Like there's no question. And I'd be lying if I said that it's not enticing to look at a $3,900 Jose Ramirez
Right.
and an Indian stack that you can get, with Santana and Lindor, and then whoever else is in this lineup, and still probably play Carrasco and another decent pitcher. Like that's what makes this difficult, because this feels like one of those spots where you fade or you come in underweight on Cleveland. They're super high owned, and it works out beautifully for you. Like the Indians will let you down countless times, and on the season they've been way worse than I think everyone expects them to be. But I don't think there's any denying that these Indians bats and Indian stacks are going to be super chalky.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like just looking through this lineup, the more and more I look at it, like if you believe Jose Ramirez isn't the same guy, or he won't be the same guy, it's really just a couple guys that I like against Benuelos. So, yeah, maybe I just won't be playing a lot of Indians with my Rangers stacks, and that'll be a way to get a little bit different from the field. But yeah, it's just going to be so easy to put them in, because if you're using historical data, Ramirez is going to grade out as one of the better values. Lindor is going to pop for people. Same thing with Mercado and Luplow at 4,100 apiece. So, yeah, I think maybe this is one where you take advantage of the increased ownership, and maybe they shouldn't be chalky, but they're going to end up that way.
I don't want to take up too much time. We have a few games to get to, but we're at a decent pace. I'm just looking at this now, seeing what's doable with a 5-player Indian stack.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Mercado in there, Luplow, Lindor, Ramirez, Santana. All of them were in the lineup last time they faced a lefty. You had Roberto Perez batting 6th. My guess is if that's the case again, Jake, he'll probably be chalky.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that in there plus Carlos Carrasco, then you're going to be hard pressed to play any of the high priced guys still. Like you're not getting Sale Carrasco with this stack in there unless you really. I still don't know if it would work. But if you're going down and you are playing, say, a Joe Musgrove, then you can do really whatever you want with the remainder of this lineup. So we'll see. I think stacking the Indians is way easier than the Rangers, and I think a lot of the field is going to take that direction because it fits best and it allows them to get at least one expensive pitcher. So when that stack tool comes out, it'll be interesting to see what their top stack probability is. I think that'll play heavily into my decision today. If it's high, then I might just go to more of them because of the value.
Yeah, I was just trying to make that lineup as well, and you're kind of forced into those guys that are going to be chalky for the Rangers, like Mazzara and Rougned Odor. So probably won't be able to fit in a lot of like the Gallos and the Pences and guys like that. So if you do that, maybe you get away from Carrasco and you just go double cheap pitcher or something like that. So there's always ways to get different.
You're right about one thing though. If you're stacking that Cleveland team with a high-priced pitcher, Rougned Odor is going to be in so many of those lineups.
Yep.
Like it's almost like, I don't want to say a free square, but Cleveland doesn't stack with second base as a position that you're loading up Cleveland bats with. It's going to be Odor, no question, or Kipnis batting what, like if he's even in the lineup. So yeah, good call. We'll see, but I think that's a pretty critical part of this slate is figuring out what you're going to do with Cleveland and Texas. All right. Dodgers and Mets, Hyun-Jin Ryu, Jason Vargas. Ryu has been amazing. I mean, he hasn't allowed more than 2 runs in a start this season. He's like, everything this guy's doing is amazing outside of course, getting an elite number of strikeouts. You're not seeing a crazy K numbers from him. 11% swinging strike rate, 30% called plus swinging, and his K rate's at 25.6% overall, which isn't bad. But you're paying a premium for Ryu if you want to play him today against the Mets. 11-2 on DraftKings, 11 flat on FanDuel, and on our sponsor Yahoo, $56 for you. He's $6 cheaper than Sale, but he is still the second most expensive pitcher, and by a wide margin ahead of guys like Carrasco, Minor, Morton, and Perez.
Yeah, so I don't really have an issue playing Ryu. I think he's going to grade out really well on a raw point basis when we start looking at things and start to get projections and such. And, the Mets do help you out in the strikeout category, over 26% this season, but they actually have a higher WRC plus versus lefties than the Dodgers do, which I was surprised to see.
Their active roster does?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Oh, wait. Let me see. Active roster, they are... Mets are at a 120 active roster. Dodgers are at 114. So, yeah, still with the active roster there.
Damn.
Yeah, 26% K rate for the Mets. They do have a lot of power. There's no doubt about that. But Ryu has been really steady as far as limiting the damage against him. The question is he worth 11-2? And I think he is. He's also going to be a guy that gets me a way different line of construction than the Carrasco people, because you're going to have to get different value bats, even cheaper than what you would need with Carrasco because of the $1,700 difference. So I like him. I don't think I'm going to mini Mets bats at all here. Maybe a Pete Alonso if Ryu becomes ridiculous. A little bit shot. Yeah. So that's like the only guy, or Ramos, but like probably 2 hitters max versus Ryu here. He's a guy I've really, really come to respect, and a guy that I've been burned taking hitters against so far this season.
I'm with you. Man, the only thing about Ryu is Dave Roberts, and I don't envision it being a problem here. Like, I think we'll be all right, but it's always in the back of my mind. Like, is he going to go 6 innings and have 88 pitches and not come back out for the 7th? But I guess that's a risk that you need to take if you're looking at Ryu here. But he's the most expensive pitcher on DraftKings, and he's second highest priced on FanDuel and Yahoo. So he's good, but you're going to have to pay for him. What do you make of hitters here with the Dodgers coming in with one of the highest totals on the slate, the second highest at 5.3? And by the way, Ryu is a 247 money line favorite. He's a huge favorite at home, heaviest favorite on this entire slate, as a matter of fact. But Dodgers with a high total against this left-hander, and I don't know about you, but a lot of these bats for the Dodgers have not been great this year against righties. The righties, I mean, which means that you get guys like Turner and you get guys like where's Hernandez? Yeah, Hernandez. I'll throw Freeze out there if he's in the lineup. Point is, a bunch of Dodger bats that bat from the right side of the plate. Chris Taylor being another one that may not be having wonderful seasons, but man, they are cheap against Vargas.
Yeah, they are. It's not just the cheap guy. Like I want to fit in Bellinger in my Dodgers stacks. So
And you
their
can
team,
do that with these cheap ones.
yep. And like people are just gonna side with, for the most part, people will side with the 5K guys in Texas because it's a higher implied total, it's a better hitter's park and all that. But I just don't think Vargas is really any good at all. So I don't really have interest in playing Vargas. It's a tough matchup against LA, no matter what handed pitcher you are. So I want to fit Bellinger in my stacks if at all possible for the Dodgers. And same thing with Muncy. Like he's priced up versus lefty, probably be hitting farther down in the order. But I love taking some of these Dodgers lefties versus a left-handed pitcher in Vargas, who he's not been great against lefties for his career either. So yeah, I love the Dodgers here. It's just going to depend on ownership. Right now, it looks like Turner's getting ownership, but like Kike will get ownership, of course, 3,700 if he's leading off. But after that, I'm not seeing a ton of guys that are looking super chalky, which I like.
Yeah, so do I. And even if Kike has some ownership, God, at that price, it's really tough to say, like to get away from him at least a little bit. But yeah, Vargas. Look, I still think Vargas is due for some regression. Check this out. He's got a 268 BABIP against lefties this year, or against righties. Sorry. So I don't like picture. He has a 3.8% K minus PB rate. Like, I think it's only going to get worse for him going forward. I really do. I wouldn't be surprised to see the home run totals rise. He's already allowing a 205 ISO with almost a 350 WOBA to righties. And then to lefties, almost 1.5 home runs per 9. Monster WOBA, huge ISO. He is getting tagged by hitters from both sides of the plate. And, when you're trying to get right, you're not looking to run into a buzzsaw like the LA Dodgers. This is just such a rough matchup for Vargas, even if the park is pretty neutral. And Vargas has actually looked decent over his past, 4 or 5 starts. I think that house of cards comes crashing down tonight, Jake. I really do.
Yeah, I was looking at Vargas going back to the start of last season, 18% K rate versus lefties, 512 xFIP, 40+% hard contact, very little soft contact. Yeah, he can't really handle either side of the plate, and a bunch of lefties in Seager and Bellinger and Muncy that hit lefties well, I think, are going a little bit overlooked right now.
I think they are too, no question. And when you're stacking them, if you're getting Turner, Hernandez, and Taylor in, or whoever, it makes it a lot easier to fit them. So I like this a lot. Let's close it out. Last game here: Seattle, LA Angels, Felix Pena. I believe it. I want to make sure because I saw Pena and I saw Skaggs.
I'm seeing Pena.
Yeah, I think it is Pena. All right. So last night it was Skaggs. One said Pena, but it does look like it's going to be Pena here, which is kind of weird because Pena pitched last on the 26th, and Skaggs pitched last on the 25th. So you would think it's his spot, but I guess not. It is Pena. MLB has Pena listed. What do you think of this matchup between Yusei Kikuchi getting around 19% ownership on DraftKings right now and Felix Pena?
Yeah, I don't really love Pena or Kikuchi here. Kikuchi, I'm surprised at his ownership.
Me too.
Just pitchers going up against LA. So
it's a horrible spot for strike. I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, just take the $1,200 and hope that Manuelos can match him. I think on DraftKings, where you're trying to pay up for a bunch of hitters and pitchers as well. So I'm not with Kikuchi if he's going to be around or anywhere close to 20%. Just a terrible K matchup, and you still need strikeouts at 6,800, and Angels just don't really help you out in that category at all, even though they're not super powerful and it's a good park for Kikuchi. So he's a guy that I'll be avoiding unless we get a pretty sizable ownership update where he drops quite a bit. And then Pena, just a pretty scary spot against Seager, Vogelbach, Narvaez. He struggles with lefty power. He's another one of those guys. But just power all over the place for Seattle and a 4.6 implied total against him. So I think I'm more on Seattle bats than Angels outside of Trout and Ohtani, assuming Trout can go. But not a game that I'm going to be heavily targeting, I don't think.
Me neither. And not on really either side. Ohtani's price has been through the floor. I mean, he's been so cheap, but he's also been so bad. I still believe that it's not about believing. We know that Ohtani is very good. Mm-hmm. So anytime you tell me you can have a $3,800 Ohtani, it's fine. He is going up against a lefty, but outside of that, I don't have an issue with it. And I guess let me ask you this though. If you answered it, my apologies. I was trying to fix some odds over here. But if Trout sits, like the K rate on this team is still very low, but would that give you interest in Kikuchi at all?
More interest.
Still not a lot of strikeouts is the thing.
Yeah, that's the problem. So I don't know. I just think it's a really bad. I think that will make his ownership higher because people will just say, like if we get this lineup an hour before lock, I think people will start crunching and they'll just get in Kikuchi because they'll get bumped up a little bit. But it's still not a great K matchup, even if there is no Trout. So, no, I don't think it's going to really do anything for me if Trout doesn't play as far as playing Kikuchi.
Hey, I'm with you. What are the totals on this game?
4.5 for the Angels, 4.6 for the Mariners.
Interesting. All right. Hey, by the way, we got the Phillies lineup. Real Muto's out of it, so Andrew Knapp is starting, but Bryce Harper is active and batting third. So we have that.
Yeah, looks pretty normal. Kingery in there, and then good call on Real Muto.
Kingery and Hernandez moved up a spot because Real Muto usually bats fifth. So
okay.
It's funny how they keep Franco in the 8-hole no matter what.
Even against the lefty, they've had him batting so low.
I know. Yesterday against the lefty, he was batting 8th. He homered, but against the righty. But I don't know, man. It's kind of funny. It's like, we'll put Andrew Knapp ahead of you. You've done so well out of the 8-hole. Mm-hmm. All right, Jake. So there it is, 7 games, early slate, late slate. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us as always. And before we wrap this up, if you enjoy the show, enjoy the content, you want to help support us and the site and our YouTube channel, give us a thumbs up, like the video. It does help us out a lot, and we really appreciate it. Also, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well, so you always know when content's going to drop next. Do you have your fantasy cruncher up?
Oh, I don't have it up.
No worries.
Do we have rankings and projections yet? I don't think we do. I was kind of waiting out on that. So
I don't blame you. I don't believe. Let me just check. If we do, we can maybe run a quick one. But if not, we always have live before lock, and we have the deeper dive. Both of those going off tonight, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Now we're still not updated there yet, so we'll push that off until later. Well, anything else before we head out?
No, thanks for watching, guys. Go be a part of that free giveaway. Over under. Be smart with your guesses. Don't guess. I wouldn't guess too close to the total. I'd be trying to get that by myself, so you don't have to leave it up to a random drawing if you get it with 10 or 12 other people. Give yourself the best chance to win. That's right. Win a free year of all access subscription to Awesemo.com, plus a one-on-one coaching session with the man, the myth, the legend, Awesemo himself, Alex Baker. If you guess the closest number of total points the Warriors and Raptors score tonight in game 1, $700 value right there. And we don't even know what value to put on the coaching session, so it's surely worth more than that. All you got to do is reply to the tweet with your guess. It is the pinned tweet at Awesemo_com, AWESEMO_com.
retweet and follow the 3 handles that we have, or the 2 handles that we have there, both awesome handles. You have to follow me too, by the way. That's not true, but you can follow us with the handles underneath our names. And that's it.
Well,
That's it. Someone's going to win a $700 value package.
Yeah, I plan on being a millionaire after tonight. So
I'm pulling for you. I mean, I'm pulling for me, but I'm pulling for you if not for me.
Yeah, all right. One of us is going to take down the million, and then we'll have a celebration live stream tonight. It'll be a good time. But yeah, looking forward to this finals game 1 as well as all the baseball we have.
Someone's going to chop it like 25 ways.
For sure. 200 ways it's going to be.
Right? It's got to.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks as always for hanging out. We will see you guys back here on the Deeper Dive and on Live Before Lock for tonight's 7-game slate. Good luck. We'll catch you back here this late afternoon.